I made $8,000 investing no money in a deal, but it didn't happen the way you're probably thinking it did. This situation was like a soap opera. In fact, I would call the seller Judas because yes, the seller tried to betray me and steal away my deal. But what the enemy planned for evil, the Lord worked it out for my good. Can I get an amen? Y'all, let's get into the situation. But first, let me tell you, when you are a real estate investor, just don't be surprised when people shock you with their behavior. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Olamide and I am a real estate investor as well as a licensed realtor. And today on Real Talk with Olamide, we are going to be getting into some details. I'm going to be giving the tea on when Judas ended up making me $8,000. So go ahead and hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, and let's get into it. Whew, where do I begin? I was out here just minding my business looking for my next investment property. I put out Facebook ads and then someone reaches out to me saying that they want to sell their property and they actually lived in another city. So I was like, okay. And for those who don't know, I'm actually a virtual real estate investor, meaning that I buy and sell properties without actually physically visiting the property. I can do it from the comfort of my own home, from vacation. I literally can buy and sell anywhere. So when this happened and someone reached out, I was like, okay, let's do it. So the seller sends me a text and I notice immediately that this text is in Spanish. So I had to make a decision. I said to myself, self, are you gonna walk away from this deal because of some language barrier? And then myself said to me, absolutely not. So I did what any other hustler would do because time was ticking. So I didn't go get a translator. I didn't go and tell them I didn't speak Spanish. What I did was I went to the trusted google.com and I used Google Translator and I negotiated that deal via text with that seller. And I kid you not, within a couple of hours, I had that deal under contract. To be honest, I was shocked because I was like, wait, did I just negotiate a deal 100% via text without ever seeing the property with someone that lives in another city, with someone that doesn't speak the same language as me, and you got this deal under contract within a couple of hours? I was like, okay, sis. But what started off as a beautiful beginning, man, when I tell you, things changed. Now, at this point, I had the deal under contract, and my next step was I wanted to go ahead and send out an inspector and a contractor to the property so that I can inspect it before I purchased it. So I reached out to another investor that spoke Spanish so that we could all get on three-way, they can translate, and we can go ahead and get this deal done. So we get on three-way, and you know, I don't speak Spanish, but let me tell you, I can tell when someone is talking about me, even if it's in another language. I can just tell the tones. I grew up in an environment where other people spoke different languages, and I always knew when someone was talking about me. So I was just like, this conversation just doesn't sound right. So they're going ahead and talking, and I'm side-eyeing both of them at this point, like, okay, what exactly are y'all talking about? And so at the end of the conversation, I go ahead and I call this investor that's supposed to be helping me and just doing some translation. And I'm like, hey, so what happened? And this investor comes and tells me that, oh, well, the seller said that they don't want to sell to you anymore because she thinks that you're a wholesaler and they want you to go ahead and terminate the contract. I was like, what? This same seller that the day before was so ready for me to go ahead and buy their property. Now, all of a sudden, they're telling me to terminate my contract and calling me a wholesaler, like it's some kind of disease. And it was really weird to me because I wasn't a wholesaler. I had never wholesaled a property. All the properties that I had invested in, I actually had bought in at that point. So I was just kind of like, where is this coming from? And if you don't know what wholesaling is, make sure you check out my last video after this video is finished, where I talk about 10 different ways to make money in real estate investing. And I do talk about wholesaling in that video. So at that point, I did two things. Number one, I cut off that shady investor. Because I don't know exactly what happened, but there was just something about the situation that seemed so off. And let me give you a power tip. When it comes to real estate investing, be very, very, very careful who you tell your deals to. Because at the end of the day, like, anyone could snatch a deal from you and try to steal your deal. So be very careful. The second thing that I did was I filed something called a Memorandum of Contract. And this is something that once your property is already under contract, so that's when you and the seller and the buyer have an agreement in place, what you can do is that you can file something called a Memorandum of Contract and file it with the county. And that essentially puts the world on notice that you have a right to buy the property. So this essentially would intimidate any other buyers that want to buy after you. It kind of lets them know that, hey, this deal is under contract with another person or another investor. So it kind of makes people think twice before they try to take that property away or buy it. So whenever I feel like there's someone or something fishy is going on, I generally file a Memorandum of Contract. And this isn't the first time I've done it. I don't do it on every deal, but I've done it a couple times and it has helped me. So at this point, the seller comes and contacts me, and of course via text, because again, there's this language barrier. And the seller's like, hey, terminate the contract. I don't want to work with you anymore. Like, just saying a whole bunch of like really random and not very nice things to me. And I'm pretty much like, well, if you don't want to sell to me anymore, you're going to be in breach of contract. Like, I'm still here. I still want to buy your property. They say a whole bunch of stuff to try to make me terminate the contract. And I'm like, no, I'm not terminating it. The seller ends up trying to send some realtor to me to try to intimidate me. And I'm like, realtor, you got the wrong one. Mind your business. This is not, I'm not the one. So the realtor ends up just leaving the situation, minding their own business. And then nothing happens, complete silence. I end up moving forward. I don't terminate the contract, but I just keep moving forward because, I mean, there's nothing I can really do or nothing I really wanted to do at that point other than let them know that they were in breach of contract. So a couple months later, a title company randomly reaches out to me and they hit me up and they're pretty much like this. They're like, hey, so we're actually trying to close this property and we noticed that you have a Memorandum of Contract filed and it's stopping us from closing this property. So can you please remove that Memorandum of Contract so we can go ahead and get this property closed? I was like, what? So you want me, who wanted to buy this property a couple months ago, you want me to now remove a Memorandum of Contract so somebody else can go and profit from the deal that I was supposed to buy myself? I was like, absolutely not. I was like, no, I'm not removing my Memorandum of Contract. And long story short, what I ended up doing was I told the seller, and at this point she had an attorney, so I kind of told the attorney, and I had also an attorney helping me. But I was like, if you want to sell the property to someone else, you need to pay me $8,000. And guess what? They paid me $8,000 and then they sold the property to someone else. So it ended up working out. This Judas seller, even though she planned evil against me, the Lord worked it out for my good and I still made money on the deal. And this is why I'll continually say this. It is so important to surround yourself with community because you really have to be able to educate yourself and also be around people that have experienced these types of things so that if these types of things ever happen to you, you know how to protect yourself as well as protect the deals. Now, I've heard some stories of some investors saying that a Memorandum of Contract just didn't work for them and they filed one and then someone ended up stealing their deal and closing. I'm not sure what their situation was. All I know is that it worked out very well for me. It's worked out well for me twice, actually. And it's also worked well for other investors as well. I hope that you enjoyed this video. Make sure that you hit that like button, make sure that you subscribe, and feel free to leave any comments. Thanks for tuning in to Real Talk with Olamide. I hope that you have a great day, stay blessed, and until next time, see you soon.